What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the YouTube channel. Today we're going to be doing a Q&A. Oh, watch out, Carol. Going to be Q&A. I posted it on my Instagram a couple of days ago. Figured it'd be a good content, changing it up from all the content from training, from therapy stuff that I've been doing. So I figured I'd do a good Q&A, answer some questions on there, and then kind of go from there. So let's see. I'm going to pull up some questions, see what we got here. In the meantime, I got some shisha. We're just chilling out in the backyard. It's nice and chill. All right, first question I got here. Hey, I'm also from Ontario. Can you please tell me, where do you get your blood work done? This is honestly a pretty common question for a lot of bodybuilders. It's hard. I'm not sure how it is in the States, but here in Canada, usually they're very picky with, and kind of an asshole sometimes, to try to find a doctor that's okay and understanding with the bodybuilder lifestyle, because I understand it comes with a lot of negative reasons why we do what we do, and some doctors don't want to deal with it or actually don't know what to do. So sometimes you got to ask around people that have been in the industry for a while. I personally see Dr. Saif Dawood. He's up in Milton, but obviously I'm not sure who's in these areas. But if you guys have any questions, you can shoot me a message and I can talk to you about the doctor that I go see. But it's very important to see a doctor that at least is open-minded to understanding your bodybuilding lifestyle and making sure you're checking all the markers that you're doing just to make sure your health is in check. So it's definitely a priority. Make sure you're going to the right doctor and making sure you stay healthy. Next question. Favorite body part to train? I think I kind of have two. I think I really enjoy like a shoulder and chest day pump together, just for the aesthetics look, like it makes me feel confident in the upper body pump. But honestly, I really enjoy a back day. I really back day because it's a very hard muscle to activate. So when you really get that good activation in your back and you feel that muscle pumped, it's probably one of my favorite days to actually train. So probably say for those different reasons, those 2 days. Let's see, next question. Supplements and vitamins to take after events, festivals, etc. on the weekends. All right, this is a funny one. So for those of you that like to go hard on the weekends and party here and there, some stuff that I usually do after like a hard party weekend, I usually will do a 5-HTP as soon as I get home with a Tylenol and make electrolytes right before bed. And then sometimes if you're able to, a nice solid meal helps as well too. So hydration is key. First thing in the morning as well, 5-HTP and another electrolytes drink right away. And then also, if it's been a little bit too extreme of a partier, I would suggest getting a vitamin drip, which like something like an NAD or a Vita drip with all the different essentials for vitamins. Very optimal to get you back to normal and get you back into working your 9 to 5 or whatever you do during the week if you went a little too hard on the weekend. So that's a little pointer for that. So that's a pretty funny question. Next question. What is the hardest part of prep? I mean, every prep I find is a little bit different. I feel like in the beginning, when I first started, the hardest part was saying no to all the foods that I liked, and not being able to eat certain things and do certain things that I wanted to. And also because at the beginning, when you first started, it's a lot harder because you got to push a lot harder. You have all that stubborn fat. You struggle through it. Your energy levels are low. You don't know what you're to expect. I think as every prep and every year goes on, I have different reasons why it's hard. I feel like more so now, it's more so like the mental aspect, the focus, the distractions, and the business part of it. You got to try to stay focused on the prep. So I feel like for everybody it hits them differently. For me, I'd say at this point it's probably more so the mental aspect, staying focused, like the reasons why you're doing it, when there's so many other distractions in the world, and adulting gets in the way sometimes. Living life is hard. So yeah, I would say at this point it'd be more so the staying focused part and not getting distracted, versus before it was more so like the physical aspect. I was dragging ass and it was a lot harder. Nowadays that part's easy. I can get over not eating food and not doing what I got to do. It's just more so the mental aspect of staying focused. How do you maintain such discipline for training? For me, I don't even think about it. For me, training is fun. The whole reason I got into bodybuilding was because I love training. I didn't get into training because I wanted to be a bodybuilder. Truthfully, I actually didn't even think about being a bodybuilder. I actually didn't even want to be a bodybuilder in the first place. I used to think bodybuilders were too gross at the time when I was younger. I didn't like to be that big. It was just my love for training that eventually grew into over the years and the love of bodybuilding. So for me, training will always be there, whether I'm competing or not. For the rest of my life, I'll always be training in one way or another. I've been an athlete my whole life, so it's something that I can't take away, and it's not something that I can change. So it's just a part of me. So for me, it's not so much of a discipline, it's just who I am. And it's, of course, that's different for everybody. Everyone has to have a reason and a reason why. But for me, I think it's just the way I've been my whole life, and I almost feel weird if I don't train. So yeah, that's the answer for that one. Let's see, next one here. Do you prep your food for the week or a few days ahead? Truthfully, when I first started, I used to prep for like 7 days. On a Sunday, I'd prep all my meals, weigh them all out, have them all in Tupperware, keep them on the fridge, and that helped, and that is a good method to do it. Personally, I found after like day 4, day 5 of that food being in the fridge and in the containers, like I just kind of started getting sick of it, and sometimes I wouldn't eat it. Or eventually, like if you miss a day or two, eventually by the end of the week, it started kind of smelling a little funky. The chicken started getting a little funky. So now I think I just cook, and it's not specifically, it just ends up being almost like every like three-ish days, I end up cooking more beef. Rice is almost like a daily or every 2 days thing, but the beef portion of it, like the chicken and steak and all that kind of stuff, that's almost every like 3 to 4 days. And that's perfect because it stays fresh, and you never get to that pungy, like nasty smell. And it keeps it consistent. I just cook it in a giant container, keep it in the container, and the day of, I just weigh all my food for the day, take it out, and then put it back in the fridge. And I just do that daily instead of like having like a million containers in the fridge and take up so much space. So I found that method works a lot easier for me. How do you measure cooked rice or pasta for macros? Well, that's kind of a, so for cooked rice, you just want to make sure you're at least consistent in the way you cook it, because some people will cook it with more water, less water. So if you're measuring it cooked, try to make sure at least it's the same consistency of water every single time. That way you don't have the variable of like one way more than the other, even though it could be the same amount. Keep the water consistent the same. Same thing with pasta. The macros, if you're really confused, you can use something like MyFitnessPal to really compare if you're really trying to keep track of macros, if that's what your approach is. Usually my approach is I usually just give out the exact weight of cooked rice or cooked pasta, because I already have the macros weighed out for my clients or even for my coach, for myself. But if you're looking at specific macros, I probably use MyFitnessPal. Just type in the food, the amount that you're eating, look at the macros, and if you want to compare it to the rice and see the amount differences, and you can kind of calculate it that way. But the best way to keep it, make sure the same, is just keep the water measurements the exact same for every time you cook it, and then you're not missing your mark there. Next question. What's your favorite supplement to take, and is protein powder needed? Protein powder is not needed. A lot of mistake people think automatically buying protein powder is what's going to make you big. You got to understand, supplements it's in the word, it's supplementing to your diet. You should have a good solid foundation of your diet, and using supplements to supplement to whatever you're eating. The whole purpose of protein powder is just a replacement to like chicken or beef or whatever it is that you're eating. Sometimes you can't have 7 or 8 meals of chicken, and sometimes you need to have it a little bit easier by throwing a scoop of protein here and there to supplement to the diet that you're having, because you don't want to be having 8 pieces of chicken breast in a day. Sometimes you want to like change it up a little bit. So, and it digests a lot easier as well too. So supplementing with protein into your diet, if you already have a solid diet, is very beneficial. Taking a protein shake after your workout and not really caring about the rest of your day for food, it's not really going to give you the benefits that you might think they might sell you online. So if you're just buying protein just for the sake of protein to have after your workout, and you're not really paying attention to the rest of it, you're kind of missing the whole point right there. So pay attention to your food. It's supplementing to the food that you're eating. That's why it's called the supplement. My favorite supplement though to take, that's a tough one. If I were to narrow down to just one, because I take a bunch of different ones for different reasons, I'd probably say either like a good vitamin or a good protein or pre-workout, because usually I need something to kind of get me going. Yeah, if I were to pick just one, I'd probably say a good vitamin. Just kind of covers all your bases. But like I said, if you're on a budget, try to minimize. There's so many things out there. Just minimize the ones that you need. protein, vitamins, something health products are probably the best bet. Taking all these other things that people are taking, it's not needed until you can budget it. But again, make sure you pay attention to your food first. Well, watch out. What's the biggest pros and cons about lifting and your career being intertwined? It's a good question. So with what I do with sport therapy and online coaching, and as a competitor myself, I find there's a lot of benefits to being involved in the industry because people can relate. I obviously treat athletes, and I'm an athlete myself. People can relate to, and I can relate to their injuries. I know exactly what's going on with them. If they just trained chest, just did legs, they had a little bit of injury, a little tweak in their legs and the glutes in the back. I know exactly that feeling because I probably felt that feeling like a couple weeks prior to that or something. So I can relate to that. That's a lot of the pros. Because some other therapists that might not really know or understand bodybuilding or fitness or any of that aspect, that might not understand like why they're getting injured or why they're feeling a certain way or why they're tight in certain kind of areas or getting ready for a show, like the certain things you need to do before, like in peak week, for example, not to go too hard, like the certain aspects of bodybuilding that certain therapists might not know. So those are the big pros in my aspect. The cons, I don't really know if it'd be too many cons intertwined with my career. Maybe just being so involved in the industry and hearing all the drama and all that stuff that gets involved in the industry, maybe. But I wouldn't say there's any cons in my aspect, in my eyes at least, because if anything, it benefits me and being so involved and it's kind of becomes like the go-to guy because I understand how the fitness world works and people want like see that I compete. So it honestly benefits me in every aspect anyway. So I don't really see too many cons in that aspect. But it's a good question. When did I start training? I started training actually like in grade 11, grade 12, so like 17, 18. But I wouldn't necessarily count it as like hardcore training for like as a bodybuilder. I was just more so training, getting into the gym and trying to get fit for girls, I guess, at the time. I wouldn't consider probably until like first year university where I started getting a lot more like hardcore into it. I bought a membership at my university gym at York University at Tate McKenzie. If anyone's been there before, you know what I'm talking about. I got a membership there at Tate McKenzie, and that's where I started training every day. I started, taking myself accountable. And then I met a buddy there that's one of my close buddies there. And he was a former bodybuilder, and we started training together, and we kind of started getting into that habit and keeping each other accountable. And then from there on, I just kind of fell into the love of bodybuilding as the years went on. And I started seeing the progress, the changes. People started noticing the changes. People were asking me like, when am I going to compete? And at that time, I still hadn't even thought about competing. And then as I started seeing the changes and the progress, I was like, oh, maybe this is something I can do. And I started fading away from playing sports, and I kind of started getting more heavily into lifting, and I took a little bit more serious. And then it wasn't until I waited till I kind of graduated university, because I was a little too hectic with all the stuff going on with like my university and the placements I had to be at to do a show. So as soon as I graduated, that's when I decided to do my first show. And then I got bit by the bug. It was back in 2017, and then kind of went from there. And here we are today. So that's the storyline. It kind of started off with just, like I said, the love of training that led to me eventually wanting to compete. And then still seeing where this journey takes me. So that's the end of the questions here for today. I enjoyed all the questions, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. Maybe learned something new about me, maybe not. If you guys have any questions, I might do another Q&A another time. And see you guys next time.